Hey everyone, welcome to Adobe Live. I'm Flynn and I'm here with the fantastic Bill Hope. Bill, how are you doing?
Very well. How you doing, Flint?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I'm going to turn you up a little bit, get some more Bill volume in there. Wonderful to see you. We're doing some more interactive drawing today. Hey, everybody in chat. R&B, great to see you. Festus and Joe, that's great. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're here for an hour. And Bill, we've got something a little bit special. We've been chatting about what we're going to do with these interactive drawings to change it up a little bit. And we were thinking about a bit of a tour around Australia, sort of.
Yeah, absolutely. We've ended up sort of touching on a lot of Australian animals in the various sketchings that we've done, but we thought
Yeah.
it'd be good to try and do a kind of illustrated map of Australia today. So we'll take a little tour around the country, and we're really hoping people have some suggestions for it could be animals, but it could be landmarks or just things that you did in different parts of Australia. And hopefully over the next hour, we'll kind of build up this illustrated map of the country, and hopefully it'll be a little bit of a tourist experience for our American watchers who are tuning in today.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we were chatting as well, like about acknowledgement of country, which is always which is something that's very Australian that we don't always do for digital events, but thought that maybe it would be appropriate today. So maybe you could explain what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, again, for American watchers. So, acknowledgement of country is a sort of a ceremonial thing that's done at the start of many events in Australia, where sometimes there will be an Indigenous person from the local area who will kind of welcome people to the country, or if it's a situation where we've got me and Flynn, who are not Indigenous, we give something called an acknowledgement of country, where we sort of pay respect to the traditional people of the country, and it's sort of a way of opening up an event and being sort of thankful for the land that we're on. So I would like to acknowledge the Gundagara and the Darug people, who are the traditional custodians of the land that I'm streaming from, which is the Blue Mountains in New South Wales. And I'd like to pay respect to the elders, both past, present, and emerging. Okay, so I think we're ready to get started. So if you have any questions about sort of Australia or what we're doing today, please put them in the chat, and we'll get going.
Great. Okay, cool. And I'm going to get some music playing. Or am I? Yes, I am. Check it out. So let's jump over. And we're using Photoshop today.
Yes, we're just back. We've been in Fresco the past couple of streams, but we're back in Photoshop today, sketching away.
Cool.
Okay, can you see my screen, Flynn?
Yep, we can see you. Let's have a quick little look at Australia. So we've got New South Wales, which is, maybe you could put your mouse over exactly where we are. In terms of Australia, Bill Hope and I are like next door to each other, but we're probably about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours away.
Australia is a very big place. So Flynn's probably about here, and I'm maybe here. So the big dot is Flynn. I'm just little dot today. So Australia it is an island. It's the biggest island in the world, but I think it's the smallest. Is it the smallest continent? There's something about that
biggest. It's the biggest island in the smallest continent, or something.
There you go. Okay, all right. So if we go counterclockwise, we've got New South Wales here, which is where Flynn and I are. Then up north, there's Queensland. And over the top, we've got the Northern Territory. There's a few sort of creative state names. So we've got Western Australia, which is in the west of Australia. We've got South Australia, which is in the south. And then there's Victoria. And right down at the bottom is everyone's favourite little state, Tasmania. So that's a general sketch of Australia so far. And what I might do is, while people are sort of posting anything in the chat, what they might like to draw, I might just sort of flesh out this illustration a little bit. So I'm just going to add a little bit of texture to Australia and colour it in a bit. So right now I've got the whole country as green, which is definitively not the case. Australia is wonderful and lush and tropical around the edges, but it's quite dry in the middle. So I'm going to start sort of painting into my Australian landscape here, and I'm going to get a little bit of the drier desert regions appearing.
Nice. And I should mention as well, just throwing questions that you might have during the chat. So we're not going to take a break because we're just here for an hour. So feel free to use chat. Hey, also, if you're watching on YouTube, the chat that we're using today is over on Behance as normal. So yeah, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. And very happy to answer any sort of general Photoshop illustration questions along the way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so feel free to chuck those in. So
Awesome.
over
And
to
just
the
a shout out
middle
to
and the
Megan
west.
as well in chat. It's great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, hey Megan. Hope you're having a good day today. All right, now I might pick out one of my favorite. It's terrible. I've had some brushes that have stayed in my brush library for, I don't know, the past 10 years or so, and I just keep going back to it. So this is my trusty old water texture brush that I've had forever, which is a really good one.
Wow, that's nice.
I'm just going to brush in a little bit of water texture around Australia.
And do you remember where you got this brush from? Or
it's terrible. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Hopefully from the correct channels. But it's a bit of a blur. There are ones that I've had for 10 years that I made, and there's ones that I've had for that time, but I have no idea where they came from, to be honest. Yep. So I hope I'm not cutting anybody's Photoshop brush grass, or whatever metaphor is appropriate.
Johanna's already onto the suggestions, and I didn't even think about this, but how about we start with some landmarks like the big banana? I completely forgot about that, and it's probably something that we could have a little bit of fun explaining. But yeah, in Australia we seem to have this thing around giant things, and the big banana, I mean, I think is probably the most famous.
Yeah, it's kind of like the go-to thing. If you're in a small town that doesn't currently have any particular reason for someone to stop off the highway to visit, it seems it's the accepted norm within Australia to build a big thing. So there's a big prawn, there's a big mosquito somewhere, there's a big sheep, there's a big banana. There's lots of big things within Australia. They're sort of scattered all over the place, and often you can sort of go into them and get a cup of tea and maybe a scone if you're lucky, and you can get a key ring with the big banana drawn on it. Yeah.
I got to say, the first time I went and saw the big banana, I was quite disappointed because it was just like a big statue, but there was nothing really else to do there. I was expecting it to be like a slide or something, because I was really young.
I think there is an associated park now with the big banana.
Oh, is
there?
I
think you can go on rides and stuff there now. Yeah, they're fleshed out. So let's start with big banana. Oh, I'm just going to have to move around.
So there we go. Festus is saying they do that in New Zealand as well. So small towns with famous huge things.
I wonder if it's a thing everywhere, and we just think it's a sort of quintessential
maybe
Australian experience.
See, we learn when we do these streams together. Giant gumboot. I think I've seen that. Not physically, but I think I've seen that online. A giant carrot. I did not know about the giant carrot.
There you go.
No, you can't ride around in the big banana, but you can walk through it. There's like a
It is an interactive banana experience.
Yeah. You haven't lived until you've walked through a giant banana.
Wasn't there a guy do you remember the Richard Scarry books? I think there was a guy who drove around in a giant banana in those books.
No, I don't. Oh, there we go. Look, check it out. So Megan's saying they have a lot of that in Alberta, Canada as well. They have a big duck.
Oh, there you go. Oh, wow.
You win. That's amazing.
Okay. Nice work, Canada.
Big Ukrainian Easter egg mushrooms. Wow, super cool. There we go. Check it out.
All right, what's next? What else can we add to this?
So
it doesn't feel entirely like a complete map yet of Australia. Let me just start off. I think I feel obligated by the tourism department of Australia to get some opera house going on. So we'll get some quintessential sail action happening over here. Nice, easy one to draw. If you've never been to Australia, the Opera House is one of those things that, I don't know, it's such a sort of trope. But once you get close to it, it is a pretty sensational building.
It's incredible.
It is really amazing. And we better get a bridge in there for good measure as well.
Oh my God, this is cool. I love hearing about this in chat. In Ontario, there's a town with a humongous fish called a muskie. That's cool.
Musky fish.
We could just do this around the world. We could just learn about places by drawing the giant things.
Yeah.
Hey Camilo, saying hey there, greetings from Colombia. We're here with your students taking a look to see the amazing way you draw. Well, that's awesome. That's really
Oh,
great.
that's fantastic. Where are your students from? Are you coming from a art school or a high school or something?
Yeah, let us
And
know.
then
And definitely if you have any questions as we're going along, please feel free.
yeah, definitely do. All right, I'm just trying to do some speed coloring in of these guys.
So very quick on the shortcuts. So maybe you could just tell us, because if we've got a couple of the students in there, maybe you could tell us some of those quick shortcuts you were doing to bring up the color picker.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So as I'm going through it, I have a bit of a system that I've sort of got together over the years of how I like to sort of speed color things in. So a lot of my process is about drawing the black outlines on one layer and then sort of selecting around those black outlines like I've done there. And then if I invert that selection, then I've just selected inside the lines, and then I'm sort of painting on the layer underneath those lines there. And it's a way I can sort of just capture the area I want to work within, fill it with a base color, and then start adding detail to that. And then if I just use Command E to flatten the layers underneath, now I've got those on their own separate layer, and I can really just sort of play around with that layer as it is now.
So you merge them together, so they do end up on the same layer. So they're all so that's
yeah.
one
For
shape.
something like this, where I'm just sort of speeding through it, I'm just going to keep flattening down my layers. For if I was doing something that was a little bit slower and a bit more considered, maybe I would probably be leaving those layers separate, so I've got a bit more sort of flexibility. But for the purposes of what we're doing today, I might just keep flattening things as we go along.
Yeah. So as you said, that's kind of because of the speed type of thing that we're doing here. If you were working like on a commercial project, you would design in, or you would create in like a less destructive way? Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean it's something I've sort of increasingly got. I don't think paranoid is the right word, but careful about over time. Where I always want sort of flexibility in my work to be able to come back to something and sort of develop it later on, or make changes that a client might require. So this concept of working in a non-destructive way, so I always can go back and edit things over time, is really good. And there's lots and lots of tools. One of my favorites being smart objects. If you get into using smart objects, is just a way of sort of keeping sort of flexibility in your work as you go along. So right now I'm drawing another Australian icon, which is the Uluru, which is a enormous rock formation in the Northern Territory of Australia.
I thought it was the giant baguette.
Giant baguette. Well, that's on me. No, Uluru is a it's this enormous rock, but it sort of just comes. It sort of just emerges right out of the desert. It's quite an extraordinary. I've never been to visit, but it's an extraordinary landmark. And it's a sort of a sort of spiritual place for a lot of the indigenous people of the area. And you used to be able to go for tours where you'd sort of walk over the top of Uluru, but as of last year, they've stopped doing that, which kind of makes sense once you start thinking about it. I think, oh well, maybe it wasn't the best idea to be walking all over that thing all that time.
And I think it was like quite discouraged, right? Like,
nobody was really happy with it, but it was sort of the thing that people went there to do. But I don't think it's been an issue. I mean, it's a beautiful part of the country anyway, so I think lots of people are going out there to visit regardless. All right, any other suggestions coming through, Flynn, that I can add into this picture?
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe we could add in. I mean, do we want to have some animals? Because when I think of Tasmania, I think of the Tasmanian devil.
Yes, yes. Think of the Disney Tasmanian devil or an actual Tasmanian devil.
Well, I guess when I was a kid, it was all about the Disney Tasmanian devil. If you want to take a crack at that, I mean, I think that could be fun. Or you could grab a reference and go for a realistic look. I guess world's your oyster,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah. Let me just um, just looking up a Tasmanian devil. Oh wow, they are amazing animals. Let me just drop a little reference imagery. Oh,
There we go.
sorry, that guy kind of jumped out at me there.
You really did.
All right, let's try sketching this guy up. Maybe I'll just try and Disneyfy him a little bit as we go along. So I'm gonna
Like
go in
dignify
with
him, like
no.
give him a little bow tie or something.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go for the um, got to get the big yawn in there as well. It looks like he's trying to kill something, but I'm going to assume he's just sleepy as well.
Yeah, sleepy. Big yawn.
Yeah.
Shout out to Unitech University and all the students there. That's super cool that you're watching.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for
Great.
tuning in, Unitech University. Yeah, if you guys have any questions about working in illustration or drawing or Photoshop or anything like that, feel free to chuck in the chat and I'll do my best as I go along. I think it is best to incorporate some sort of bow tie, fancy this guy up a little bit. And maybe he's sort of reading some poetry or something like that.
Oh, beautiful. Like he's at like dignified karaoke.
Yeah, something along those lines. All right, I'll start coloring this guy in. So again, I've just made that selection. I'm coming back into it. Now I'm just going to start painting within that area and pulling out some of those features I'd like to do. Yeah, so this kind of drawing it's a bit rushed for the sort of thing that I would do for my normal work. But learning to work quickly like this is really beneficial to doing something like storyboarding, where you're trying to sort of get lots of commercial pictures done as quickly as possible. I've actually got, I think, 35 to do over the next 3 days storyboards. So being able to work at a bit of a pace is definitely a bonus for that sort of thing.
Yeah, we were just chatting that I was just asking you before, like what have you, because you do so much diverse work. I've got your book, by the way. I'm going to run off and grab it so I can show it on stream. It came yesterday.
Oh wow.
Which is cool. Came super quick. But yeah, from like illustrating like your book to doing the scribing, we were just chatting before the stream what you've been up to, and you told me yesterday you did a 4-hour like scribing session. Can you tell us like a little bit about that? Like, how's that work? It's a long time.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things that I've sort of fallen into with my work. It wasn't something I planned at all, but yeah, I do quite a lot of work live scribe. So if there's an event or a talk or something like that, I'll kind of draw with the speaker of the talk, and I kind of do like illustrated note taking, basically. So over a 4-hour talk, I'll sort of develop all these ideas and sketches into this one big illustration. And yesterday I did a 4-hour talk. And I have to say it's temporarily slipped from my mind exactly what the gosh, what was it? 4 hours. Oh yes, yeah. It was a number of graduates from a government graduate program.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's good. But it can be a little bit of an exhausting process, sort of being on for 4 hours straight doing that kind of thing. Yeah, but it was good.
And what do you end up with at the end? Is there like, you know, 20 different files, or like what do you do in 4 hours? Like what do you deliver?
That's a good question. I can show you. Give me 1 second.
All right, cool.
It sort of ends up as sort of like a big long scroll. So if I quickly find,
I think you might only be sharing Photoshop. I'm not sure. It's all we can
yeah,
see at the
yeah, yeah.
moment. Yeah,
I'll drop something in a second.
cool.
So so
Oh
this
wow.
is one I did for a government thing, and this was about 4 hours as well. So this is for a
Wow.
health symposium, and this was all public, so I can share this one.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I sort of yeah, kind of recording a bunch of ideas over that time and drawing them all down. So they're sort of quite simple drawings, but the idea is sort of the tricky part's trying to sort of listen and draw at the same time. So
Mm.
that is one of the many avenues I've found myself going down for work.
Yeah. Have you ever done a vertical, exactly the same thing but in a vertical sense? I was just thinking like if people are second screening or something like while it was going on and they could like scroll up and down on their phones or something. Has that ever happened?
Oh, that's interesting. I haven't for a live event before.
Mm.
No, it's an interesting idea. I think just because most screens are landscape format, I kind of do it that way.
Yep.
But that's an interesting idea, being able to sort of scroll through it as you go. It would be cool.
Mm. There you go.
Like,
That's free. That's yours. No worries.
thanks for. Don't want to take a commission on that.
No, I get a cut, but you know,
Okay,
can have
okay.
it.
Yeah.
Great Barrier Reef was a suggestion
Yeah,
as well. So
cool, cool. I might start drawing a little bit of a reef here. Ooh, we should get one of those big clam guys. They are extraordinary, those giant clams. I don't really understand. I don't know. I guess it's that whole thing about megafauna, where without sort of reasons to sort of be able to hide or stay small, plants or animals can just become enormous, enormous things. We better get some little fishies in there. I have a long history of drawing silly cartoonish fish, and my partner's dad bought one of my artworks from a show a little while ago, and he was very sort of shy about the whole thing. And he said, "I really like this work, Bill, but I think the fish are silly. I think the fish are too silly. Can you take them out and print it again?" I was like, yeah, okay, sure. So I had to go through and remove all the silly fish from his artwork.
oh, that's
So
amazing.
he could hang it on his wall.
The fish are silly. That's great.
All right, let's try and dash these guys out. Oh, got those the wrong way up. Might just initially fill all of those in at the same color, and then I'll go through and a bit of life to the reef. I might just mask that layer as well, which is another way of just keeping everything in the right place, so I can paint a little bit more freely. I'd be interested in trying to draw some. I feel like sometimes Victoria and New South Wales get all the attention when it comes to drawing in Australia. So I'd be keen if anybody had any ideas around Western Australia, and I can try and get some stuff in that part of the world.
I have a lot of sharks.
A lot of sharks. Okay. Well, there are definitely sharks in Western Australia, so I think we can definitely work that one out.
question about your workflow. Do you prefer using an alpha mask or clipping mask?
Oh, that's a very good question. I was a long time working before I even knew what an alpha mask or a clipping mask was. I very much like to use both. I think the times that I would use an alpha mask versus a clipping mask is if I've got, say, like I'll just draw a very brief silhouette of a fish over here, and say I filled that in grey. So say I filled that guy in grey. And if I knew it was all going to be variations on that same color, I would just click the alpha lock above that one, and then I would sort of start doing my painting inside that layer. But when I'm using clipping masks, if I wanted a bit more detail in it, so say I wanted this fish to have stripes as well, like that, I might make a new layer, then I'll fill in that. And then I would clip it beneath and kind of build up the different textures. So I think if I'm working within the confines of one color on an object, I'd use just an alpha lock. But if I'm going for a slightly more complex design, then clipping masks is really good for that. But both just such powerful tools are so great. It just adds a lot of potential to work. That's pretty simple, but I reckon I can just drag and drop him into a reef over there. All right, we should get a shark going on. I should have practiced my sharks in between last stream. I struggled a little bit, and I was ashamed of my shark output. But
that's right. I think you said last time that your sharks sometimes look like dolphins.
Yes, yeah. They're a little bit more sort of like blunt-nosed sharks. They're a bit like that kind of shape. And then they've got these big bodies like that. So I might actually sketch this one up a little bit first.
I mean, that kind of brings me to a question of like using reference and drawing from memory, because a lot of what we see here with the interactive drawing is you drawing from memory. But for the Tasmanian devil, you used reference. So like how often will you use reference compared to trying to draw it, trying to sketch it from memory?
Yeah. I think most of the time these days I will use a bit of reference, especially if it's something that is, I mean, with a shark, you can kind of put a big fin on the back and it's got all the teeth. There's all these like specific markers that you can kind of go to make it look sharky. But with a Tasmanian devil, like it's sort of, even though it does have a specific look like it could be with a couple of small variations, a possum or a raccoon or something like that.
Right.
So something that has a few more specific markers for what the picture should look like. I'll always go to reference to make sure I pick up on those little things. And also just depends how well I know the animal. I've drawn a few sharks before, but not many Tasmanian devils. So that's kind of what I'm going for there. With this one, maybe I'll have this shark guy over here, and maybe there could be there's a lot of surfing that goes on around here as well. So maybe I'll have a surprise surfer coming off the back of this shark.
There's been a lot more shark attacks this year as well, which has been pretty crazy. Don't know what that's about.
Yeah, I can't tell if that sort of bodes well for shark populations in Australia or means that they're hungry and searching for other things. Don't know if it's good news about, I mean, obviously it's not good news if you're getting attacked. That said, I don't feel like a sort of outwardly patriotic person all that often, but I can't help every time someone's attacked by a shark and you hear these stories of these surfers on the news, and the surfers almost invariably have some story about like, well, look, I was in his backyard and like he was hungry, so he did take off my leg, but it kind of makes a certain amount of sense. You can't be angry at them.
Yeah.
I just think, oh, that's great. I love that.
That's true.
And it does seem to happen surprisingly often, these incredibly forgiving surfers who are missing a limb that seem totally at peace with the idea that that's what sharks do.
That's true, and I think in that same vein, so often, they'll say, "Well, would you ever surf again?" They're like, "Yeah, as soon as I can get out there, I'll get out there again."
Yeah, no, I can't say that my own bravery would extend that far, but it's admirable.
Yeah, I'd probably take a break at least. Festus
Yeah.
was saying, yeah, with sharks, top fins are very pointy. Dolphins are more rounded and curved.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, this guy.
This guy does not seem phased by the shark whatsoever.
Actually, you're right. I mean, I think he should be a little bit phased.
Wow.
I was on autopilot there. That's a bit better.
It's a quick change.
Yeah, this is more expressing how I would feel about the whole situation.
Oh, here we go. So Johanna has a question for both of us. Have you tried surfing?
Well, you go first, Flynn.
Okay. I grew up in Cronulla, which is pretty famous for its beaches. It's like very suburban. Some pretty great surfers have come out there. You know, are from there, and there's like a lot of beach. And I am terrible at surfing. I quite like going down the snow and like snowboarding and everything like that, but surfing, I just couldn't really get into it. I did try quite a bit, but it wasn't my jam, really. And I moved into the city pretty quick when I was an adult. So, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I've only had definitely not a regular surfer of any kind. My experience is basically, I remember going out in Byron Bay with some friends who were also surfing teachers, and they had these enormous foam Mao boards, which are like these 10-foot long boards. And it's basically a small boat. It's the easiest thing in the world. You sort of go up to a bit of water, you stand on it. If there's a little bit of foam, and you just go forever. And it was fantastic and incredibly easy. It's not exactly the surfing you imagine, where you're like curving down the face of a wave. You're kind of just cruising along this little bit of whitewash.
Right.
And that was great, and I definitely feel like I could achieve that. And then the only bit of proper surfing that I've done was actually in high school. We had, as a sport option, we could go to the beach and do some surfing in high school, and I did that for a little bit. And that was great. I was never very good at all. I spent most of the time sort of consuming seawater, but it was good. Yeah, but certainly wouldn't claim any kind of surfer cred whatsoever.
Johanna has a question following on from the autopilot. So you mentioned you were drawing on autopilot. Here's a great question. Like, how do you manage that? Like, do you have tricks to keep questioning your work, but not so much? Or like, do you catch yourself doing that a lot? Or
what do you mean? Like autopilot in terms of just sort of
yeah, so I think before, when you were drawing, and then I sort of mentioned the shark, and then you very quickly kind of changed it. Like, do you find yourself autopilot? So sometimes you'll be walking home, or coming home from work, back in the day, when we were doing that sort of thing, and you just find yourself at home. You're like, actually, how did I get here? I wasn't really paying attention. You kind of zone out because you're doing this repetitive task. People get it with driving. Like, they pull into their driveway and like, I do not remember driving. Like, because they do that drive so often, they kind of catch themselves. So I guess, do you find yourself doing that quite a lot?
Absolutely. I think because I do a lot of the live drawing stuff now, so much of it is really quick turnaround. You kind of get sort of a little library of sort of styles of drawing people or objects that you do so many times that it does become quite automatic. So like I draw this figure that is like, let me just draw it for you now. If I'm drawing a running happy figure, it looks like this guy. And you can tell I'm doing it sort of as fast as I possibly can. And something like that is very, very automatic for me. So I definitely do sort of fall into those kind of grooves when I'm working at some kind of speed.
Cool.
All right. A bit of water splashing around this guy. Any other suggestions have come through, Flynn?
Yes, we do.
Start incorporating.
We're going off the wall a bit more now. So Festus suggested for Port Douglas maybe a croc on a swing.
Croc on a swing. All right. This is a throwback to last week where we were doing some crocodiles as well. I have to ask where Port Douglas is. I'm afraid.
That's okay because I'm looking it up.
It's in Queensland somewhere.
Queensland for sure.
For the sake of clarity, I think I'm actually going to...
On the pointy bit up the top.
On the pointy bit. Okay,
that's the technical. Cool. Over onto the in Queensland, like it's in Cairns. It's Cairns.
Right. Okay. Got it. So I'm going to sketch this one up because it's a slightly more complex illustration, and then I will drop it into the correct place when I'm done. So let's go for a happy, cute crocodile, a baby crocodile for this one.
Perfect.
Let's get some little feet coming out and have him hanging onto the swing like so. Get some cute little crocodile eyes. I remember that there was a viral internet video, and it was a cartoon of a German's children's song about a crocodile, and it was like Schlappi, Schlappi, Schlapp, Spiech bei Schlappi, ich bin kleines Krokodil or something like that. What? Am I sounding completely nuts right now? Okay, don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, I don't know that. But if you could sing it again, I think I can turn the music down.
No, it's fine. I feel like I've, I think I've done my German translation for today. All right, that's a cute little crocodile.
That's cute as. It's having a great time. Looks like my daughter on a swing.
More teeth, I'm assuming, though.
I don't know. She has a lot of teeth. I think some people in chat know the song.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. Great.
So I'm the outlier.
Glad it's not just some fever dream that I had many years ago. I'm going to go with some slightly less murderous rounded teeth for this crocodile.
Oh, that's like that crocodile game kind of rounded teeth.
Well, Croc. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if Croc even had teeth. I found myself watching a clip of that old video game Croc a little while ago, and it's amazing how sentimental noises from video games are. I guess it's kind of like jingles that, like advertising jingles that were on TV when you were a kid or something. They're just these little earworms.
Absolutely. Did you see that I think Gruen Transfer, which is a TV show here that talks about advertising, often Australian advertising, tracked down the person who made the Bunnings jingle.
Oh, really?
Did you see that? It's hilarious.
No.
And he just sits at his keyboard and played it. Ridiculous.
I'd like to think he was at a grand piano with coattails on.
No, it's like he looks exactly like a guitarist that you would expect. And then he's just like, yeah, I just like did it in like 5 minutes. It's something like this, and then plays it perfectly. It's great.
My art commercial secret recently is that I've been making some animations for work, and without people asking, I've been trying to write my own music on GarageBand to add to these videos.
Oh,
no
cool.
one's complained so far. I've done a couple of these, and they've gone out, and everyone's fine with it. And like I know nothing about music whatsoever. I'm basically just hitting keys on my keyboard to write this music for GarageBand, and it's been going great. And they've been incredibly catchy so far. Me and my partner find ourselves singing these stupid songs I made on GarageBand for work.
That's super cool. I really like that, like kind of edging, like throwing in a little bit of your own like music into it without kind of, overtly being like, hey, like I can do music, or throwing it in as additional charge. Like a great way to test and see what the client thinks. And then you're like, hey, you know, if they can't tell the difference between this and, you know, commercial stuff that, or, you know, royalty free or anything, that's really cool.
It's incredibly like ambient, quiet stuff in the background. But yeah, it's that little thing that like I'm hoping it's just there and no one notices, because if they ask me to make any specific changes, I'm completely lost. I can't do anything. But for now, it's been fun.
Johanna's asking if we'll find you on Spotify anytime soon.
Nope.
What would your musician name be? What would your band name be?
I think it would have to be some sort of like obscure, like 90s high school teenage grudge band kind of thing. It would be like sort of like Off Milk Carton or something like that, or sort of Crushed Chip Packet or something like that.
I think
remember
with the
being
surname
totally...
Hope, you'd have to have Hope in there somehow.
Yeah, probably. I'm a long-time hip-hop fan, and I was so thrilled to discover the rapper Ill Bill. There's already an Ill Bill out there doing his thing, which is great. All right.
Full of
the
Hope
crocodile
is a suggestion from chat.
What hope?
Full of Hope. If you wanted to go the grungy angle, you could call it No Hope.
Yeah. Bill Hope and the No Hopers.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm happy with that cute little crocodile. I think he came out nicely.
That is awesome. Where is looking sparse? We haven't done anything in South Australia yet, guys.
Yes. Yeah. I'm thinking, what did South Australia have? Got wineries.
Wineries. Yeah, winery was a suggestion, actually. Yeah, so they're quite famous for their wines, aren't they?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just going to give a little bit of a outline to Australia here. I've only been to Adelaide once, but it's an amazing city. I'm going to have to go back sometime soon when I can. It's very interesting, the layout of Adelaide. It's like there's this little island of city, and then there's this enormous parkland that goes the entire way around, and then there's sort of the suburbs outside. It's like it's sort of they've sort of fenced the CBD off from the rest of the city. It's really interesting. Okay. All right, let's get some wineries going on here. For if any of the students are still in attendance, here's my hot tip for drawing beer or wine bottles. The shoulders of the bottle have to be totally symmetrical. It looks really wrong if you've got this kind of thing going on with your wine bottle. So just draw one side of your wine bottle or whatever you're doing, and then select it, and then you can hold down Option and Shift and drag, sort of copying and pasting a thing, and then flipping it around and sticking it back together again, and then you've got a nice symmetrical wine bottle. That's my go-to.
Tip. I guess there are things like that, right? Like your mind, you know, tells you even if it's a subtly difference that, you know, obviously, you know, wine bottles are symmetrical. So if you see something like that, your subconscious is telling you, oh, that's kind of a wonky drawing.
Yeah, and it's funny the things that it seems to matter and not matter on. And there's interesting things like faces do need to be, you want faces to be symmetrical as possible. You want the eyes to be in the same place and the shape of the head to be the same. But if you do what I just did then for a wine bottle and you apply it to a face, it looks really wrong. It's like you need to be very close to being symmetrical on a face, but not quite perfectly symmetrical. There's something about a perfectly symmetrical person that just reads as fake, I think.
Right.
The other interesting thing about that, if I can ramble on for a little bit, is with your pupils, if you're drawing the pupils on someone's eyes, if you've got one pupil looking directly ahead and then you flip the side of the face over and duplicate it like I did with the wine bottle, it looks like the person's slightly wall-eyed or bug-eyed. It looks like their pupils are heading in the opposite direction. Right. And I think what it is that because our eyes are focusing on a particular point, we're all very, very, very slightly cross-eyed. So people looking slightly cross-eyed is actually more natural than having the pupils heading in exactly the same direction.
There you go.
These are the things you pick up by failing to draw people for a long time.
Well, do you ever, if you're drawing someone like face on, like looking directly at, the viewer, would you ever draw half the face, then flip it and then add some minor changes in it? Does that speed up the process, or does that just kind of get in the way?
No, that is something I do. So often, I'll do things like the jawline, and maybe the nose looks fine if it's perfectly symmetrical. So I'll flip those, but I'll try and do the eyes individually and the sides of the mouth individually, just so you get that little bit of sort of error sort of naturally coming through. Cool. What am I doing here? I think I'm just adding a little bit of vineyard coming down here. My generic leaf brush. And we'll get a couple of grapes appearing in there as well.
I was going to say grapes, for sure.
Yeah. I have no idea what a vine looks like. That'll do.
Looks like that.
Yeah, perfect. All right, any other suggestions for Australia?
We're running out of time. I was thinking of South Australia. If we wanted to do more in South Australia, they also call it the city of churches. So
yes.
I mean, I'm sure the Vatican will have something to say about that, but I mean, that's what people from South Australia like to say.
All South Australians claim it. Vatican 2.0, they call it. Well, I'll just get some spires coming. I'll get a bit of a roof line happening.
And did I miss something, guys? Maybe Johanna, did I miss anything that came through in chat? I might have missed something in there. Shout out to Leonardo from Peru. That's super cool. At Colombia, Peru in the house today. It's super cool.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, great to see you. Thanks for saying hi.
My apologies to North and Western Australia. I am doing a generic palm tree here. I will assume there are some palm trees in your part of the world, but I'm sorry for stereotyping you in that way.
So birds is what I've missed. So
right.
Birds, parrots and such. Rosella, because of course. No rosellas today. I think it's too hot. I think they're all chilling out. So the rosellas usually come and land on my roof when it's been raining and the gutters have filled up with water and they have a bath.
That's sweet.
So we can hear them on stream oftentimes.
Yeah.
Festus has suggested a band of rosellas singing in tuxes. We might not have time for the full crew, but maybe one. I hope you guys have had fun today. I hope you've learned a little bit about Australia. It's always like a nice to have kind of thing. We learned something. I learned that there are big things in small towns all around the world. Well, at least in many countries, which is super cool. I wonder if anyone's visited them all. Like, I wonder if there's like an Instagram feed where someone's just like, I'm going to visit every big little thing.
Yeah.
Someone
kind of wanted it to be a sort of an Australian eccentricity, but I suppose it's a pretty generic idea.
Yeah, makes sense.
What we don't have in Australia enough of, I think, is the reverse, and I think they have quite a lot of these in Britain, like the tiny towns, where they make miniature versions of everything. I'd be keen to see more of those. I think I'm hopelessly entertained by the novelty of things being the wrong size.
So it's all about scale. It's just like really big,
absolutely,
or really tiny.
Yeah. If you ever go to Sculpture by the Sea, which is a sculpture prize that happens right near Flynn, actually, down that bit of coastline, it's basically that. I'm sure there's some profound artistic ideas, but it's basically big things and small things. And
it's so true.
I'm entirely in favor of it.
There we go. Should we do a bit of a tour as we wrap things up? I
Yeah.
think that we've got like maybe 2 minutes to have a little bit of a tour around. We can check some of this out.
Sure, absolutely. So we started off with iconic Big Banana, the logical place to start in Australia. I went down to Opera House and Harbour Bridge there. Then I think we moved on to drawing our Tasmanian tiger, Tasmania, regaling us with some of his poetry. And we moved a little bit north and did a bit of Barrier Reef over here. And then we continued our aquatic theme. Oh, sorry, I missed Uluru in the center there. Works that guy out. And then we continued the aquatic theme with a shark being surfed by a unaware surfer. And we had a adorable crocodile in Port Douglas up in northern Queensland.
That's awesome.
And we came down to South Australia with our churches on our wine and finished with a Western Australian parrot with some palm trees.
Nice.
Okay. Oh. All right. And there we go. That's our map. Thank you so much for joining in, everyone. It's been really fun.
Yeah, it's been great. This is like a really fun, like slightly different idea. I think let us know in chat what your favorite is, and then we'll say our goodbyes. I think the croc is taking it away today.
It makes sense.
It's happy as. Yeah. Although the Tasmanian tiger, devil,
sorry,
is having a good go at it, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm.
And just a quick shout out for your art space as well. How's the art space coming along?
It's going very well. We've got all the art ready to go. Just need to start installing, but we're ready to open in 2.5 weeks. So It's happening. So if you want to check it out, there is Little Fish Art Space on Instagram, and it's a gallery that we're opening in my hometown of Katoomba right now. It's very exciting.
That's awesome. Congratulations on that. Super cool. We got Festa saying croc for sure. Some love for the shark and the parrot. Super cool.
Awesome.
Tasman is the best. Yeah, that's super cool. But thank you all for hanging out with us. R&B, Johanna, Steve, the class that was checking us out. That's super cool. Love there to be a full class, like taking advantage of like all this free stuff, and hope you guys learned something. But yeah, thank you just so much for hanging out with us. And Bill, as always, thank you very much for hanging out with us today.
Cool. Thanks so much, guys.
All right, and we'll see you next time. See you later.